All right. Let me show you what I was talking about earlier, John. I think you'll enjoy this. So, I saw this Twitter thread from a writer for the Financial Times. I tried to find the article he wrote, but it was hidden behind a paywall. And I should have been surprised he wrote for the Financial Times, of course. But I found a copy of his thread here, and it's pretty fascinating. His name is John Byrne Murdoch. And his thread is human intelligence starting to decline? Recent results from major international tests show that the average. Hold on, can people see this? You guys watching?
Yes,
Can you guys?
I can see it. So
Well, I know we can, but I want to make sure the audience can because we've had trouble with this before. I'll read, but if they can't, let me know, John. Recent results from major international tests show that the average person's capacity to process information, use reasoning, and solve novel problems has been falling since around the mid 2010s. What should we make of this? So, on this here chart, you can see that right around 2012, we start to see in teenagers drops in science, reading, and I like that it says maths, like the Europeans, the math with the S that always makes me laugh. And then with adults, we have numeracy and literacy start to drop right around the same time. Nobody would argue that the fundamental biology of the human brain has changed in that time span. People's underlying intellectual capacity is surely undimmed, but there is growing evidence that the extent to which people can practically apply the capacity has been diminishing. For such an important topic, there's remarkably little long-term data on attention spans and focus, etc. But one source has consistently tracked this, the Monitoring the Future survey, which finds a steep rise in the percentage of people struggling to concentrate or learn new things. And then you see right around the same thing. It's a lot of correlation here that there's been a marked rise in the report of cognitive challenges, share of 18-year-olds who report particular issues in 5 of the last 30 days. So this like when I saw this, I was kind of sad. I was like, oh man, people, because I thought the same thing as you, John, that when you look back through history, especially the last 100 years, there's just an increase in IQ, an increase in competency, an increase in knowledge. And I always used to do it to dunk on old people. But all of us, it turns out, from multiple nations, like first world nations that they did these surveys on, people have started declining in the last, 14, 13 years or so. And my theory on this, and you probably already know where I'm going, we need to start treating smartphones like cigarettes. We need to get these things out of the hands of people and make them. I also want to implement IQ tests to own a smartphone. I think that you need to show a certain. Because listen, I don't know about the rest of these folks. I've gotten a lot smarter since 2012, but I do agree. I think people have gotten dumber since then. It seems like this does explain both Trump elections. I got to say, it does go into mind there. But have you seen that?
so I do agree with the smartphone thing. And I think framing it as intelligence is not necessarily the most accurate way to say it. I think it's just capacity. Because what has definitely changed with the smartphone, you talk about attention spans and all of that, and I think that's oversimplifying a bit, but we have so much more shit being processed every single hour of every single day. And it's like, I know when I have a stressful day at work, I struggle to come home and make a TikTok or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And it's not that I'm less intelligent than I was the day before. It's that that day I got overloaded. And we know this. Like if you look at like competitive sports, competitive games, or whatever it is, mental load is a very big thing. And we can only process so much without resting before we're able to operate at full capacity again. And I think that's more what we're seeing. I wouldn't go so far as to say it's a general lack of critical thinking skills. I think it's a lack of capacity in the given moment that they're taking this test. Because I'm telling you, like, even today, I was just missing. I was overloaded. I was missing like words. I couldn't remember words that I use every single day. And it just happens. And I feel like we've all had this. And I feel like with the smartphones, it just exacerbates that. We're just constantly flooded, constantly inundated with 1,000 important things that our brain has to process. And you're right with the cigarettes thing. Like, I don't think we can go that far, but there
Oh
needs to
yeah, I
be
was
some sort
exaggerating.
of,
Yeah.
because like they are good. Like they are, I think generally it's good to have a smartphone. It allows us to do so many different things, but the public health education around smartphones needs to be prioritized. I don't even know exactly how to do it, but I know that I have implemented many strict things on myself. Like I'm putting it away. I'm not using it for so long because I have been able to recognize how damaging it is just for my ability to get through the day.
Have you heard of dumb phones? Have you heard of these things?
Like normal fucking phones before the
Well,
smartphone?
well, oh yeah, I guess. But so what they is I've seen people that use these in the last couple of years. They look just like smartphones. Like a regular dumb phone from 15 years ago was like a flip phone or something like that. But this is a phone with a flat screen and everything. It looks just like a Samsung, Android, or an iPhone. But the only thing it can do is call and text. You can't go online with it. And a lot of people use it like, you know what? Because they find like, does your phone mock you once a week, telling you how many hours a day you spent staring at this device? And it's like, oh, you spent an entire workday staring at your phone screen. It's like, oh, shut the fuck up, But people say it does help improve their intention. One thing that the article kind of mentions something about like how your focus is. If I can get this back up here again, it says that one argument is that this is downstream of the decline in reading, as people's information diet shifts from longer and more complex text to short snippets, and from text to video, people's effective literacy levels decline. So you can see this started, boom, all of these are lining right up right around 2012. People have said that they read a lot less in their leisure time, and to reading hardly ever from reading almost every day. That dynamic is almost certainly part of what we're seeing here, but it's notable that we don't just see declines in literacy, but numeracy. I haven't seen the word numeracy before. Is it numeracy or numeracy? I might be mispronouncing that wrong, which is a very funny article to be mispronouncing. And other forms of problem solving too. This suggests a broader erosion in people's capacity for mental focus and application. Some of these statistics are eye-opening. The share of adults in high-income countries who are unable to use mathematical reasoning when evaluating simple statements, or who struggle to integrate multiple bits of information from a piece of text, has climbed 25%. So, yeah, this is a big deal, talking about the reading thing, which kind of strikes home to me, because I always say that reading is kind of overrated. Or reading entire books is always overrated. Something, because I read 1 billion books growing up, and honestly, in the last, 10 years, I may have read 2 books, maybe 3 or 4. I just don't read books. I can't tell you the last time I did. It's been like 5 years. But everyone else out there, you guys need to be reading. All right. You guys need to brush up and everything. I love me some literature. I make 1,000 literary references every time we do the show. I'm good. I've reached critical mass on reading. The rest of you folks, come on, step your game up. You're dragging the numbers down here.
It is one of those things that's weird to talk about when, like, I can recognize I don't have the attention span for books that I used to. I used to be able to sit down and read a book for hours. Now I get to about like 45 minutes and I'm like, all right, I'm going to put this down and do something else.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm a worse reader. In fact, I probably read more now in terms of just reading words.
Yeah.
Ever have before. A lot of it's news, a lot of it's research, a lot of it is on screens. It's not books or whatever. That long form content I do struggle with more than I used to. So hand up 100% that has affected me. But I do think that there is like you said, a critical mass of reading that you have to get to in order to like that not to be a problem.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Because I can sit down and gather research from 1,000 different places for hours
every time,
and consolidate and think and write and like do other things. It's the sitting down reading one single book that I struggle with, and that is new for me. That is not old me. Like back in like high school, I didn't have this fucking problem. It's more of an adult life thing. So like, I don't know. I kind of agree with it. I do think that people read more than ever. But it's the type of content that they're reading and their ability to interpret. Because I mean, how many fucking times do I write something so clearly worded to address specific counter arguments to it, and just everyone hits me with that counter argument that I clearly addressed in the thing.
Yeah,
I didn't write a fucking novel here. I wrote a fucking 240 character tweet. It's not like. So yeah, I don't know. It could be true, TJ. The convergence of all of these around the same time that smartphones became popularized, you can't look at that and go, well, there's nothing going on here. It's merely a coincidence.
Yeah, pretty suspicious. Like that many data points hitting the, but maybe it's a coincidence, but I think not. And the reading thing, yeah. It's kind of like one of the canon events of the show when we found out that the United States has a 79% literacy rate or something like that. And like, man, really 1 out of 5 people can't read. It's not that, you put the word dog in front of them, they can't read it, or cat, as you guys, Zeke, pointed out. We got Wolfie here. But they can read the words, but can they comprehend it? That's really the issue. Like John, you said you'll put a simple tweet out and people will ask you. I don't know. I don't know how this has happened. I don't, because reading is pretty simple, and even teaching reading comprehension, I remember being pretty simple as a kid, and most people seem to get it. But there probably is something to what you're talking about, that kids need to read. They need to read a lot. And most people, well, not most people, but a lot of people aren't getting the proper levels of reading to actually understand how the English language fucking works. You see it every day in social. It's kind of like all those times you make fun of people where you'll write something like, I think waffles are great. And someone responds with, "Oh, so you're saying pancakes are awful? What's wrong with you?" Say, "No, that's not what I said. You're ironic. You're reading too much, ironically, into this by not understanding it." So, yeah, I don't know where to go for. And by the way, one of you guys commented that. Oh, you guys had a whole thread here, Jesus, talking about how IQ tests are culturally biased. Yes, I was kidding about giving an IQ test to determine if you get a smartphone. I was joking. I mean, that's obviously not what I meant, but I would like a measure in which only people I consider smart could use smartphones. That's what I want. That's what I actually want. But of course, that wouldn't work. So yeah, I don't really mean that the state should issue an intelligence quota test and say, okay, you got a 105, you can get a smartphone now. That's not what I meant.
Yeah. So, is there any intelligence-related questions or statements that you wanted to make, or did you want to move on to other topics?
Oh, well, someone in here, I think Kyle wrote, IQ tests are useful in predicting things. They're great for intervention. Oh, that's not the one I was looking at. Well, anyway, but what intelligence and what it actually means, that what intelligence is like 12 different things, right? I remember thinking about how these standardized tests can be culturally biased, because when I heard it, I said, "Oh, come on, really? You give a math problem, how's that culturally biased?" or something like that. But I remember an example. I don't remember what test this was, but I was in high school or college. I don't remember, some standardized test, and the question was, in which of these environments are you most likely to find a Gila monster? And it said rainforest, desert, ocean, sky, or whatever. And it's desert. That's where you find a Gila monster. And I thought, you know what? The only reason I know what a Gila monster is because I remember taking the class like in 4th grade, and it was going over all these animals, and it's like, oh, this lizard here is a Gila monster. I've never heard anyone talk about Gila monsters. I haven't seen one on TV. Honestly, I was like in 4th or 5th grade. That is the only fucking reason I know what a Gila monster is. I was like, that's a pretty unfair question, because not knowing what environment a Gila monster is contingent upon someone telling you what one is. And that applies in, like, if you go to take a IQ test in a different country, there's different norms and different phrases and different ways of doing math that you weren't taught. It doesn't mean you're stupid. It doesn't mean you're dumber. It just means you weren't given the tools to solve that problem. So yeah, there are flaws with an IQ test, but like Kyle mentioned, it is good at predicting your success in certain fields, kind of like the ASVAB. The ASVAB for the military is very good at telling you what you're good at, but not necessarily a direct reflection of your intelligence.
Yeah, I mean, there's your knowledge capacity, how much data that you're able to have in your brain. There's your processing speed, how fast you can cycle through that data. There's communication intelligence, being able to synthesize data and communicate it in a different way. There's emotional intelligence, being able to read people and understand their needs without them having to tell you. All of these things, and on top of 1,000 other things, are very important for intelligence. And you can be intelligent in one area and not another. But yeah, most people don't view it that way, unfortunately. What are you pulling up here, TJ?
Yeah, your spatial awareness is even part
That's
of your
another one.
intelligence.
Yeah, I suck at that. I'm really dumb at spatial awareness.
All right, so